Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this little gift box. I always make up my first or my prototypes in retired designer series paper, and that's part of the way I use them up so that I can get my measurements and make my mistakes when I'm not using current designer series paper. And I thought this one would be gorgeous using some of our new Night of Navy floral paper. Isn't that beautiful? And some Night of Navy cardstock. And so what I did was, this was inspired by a little box that I saw on Pinterest, and unfortunately when you click the link it didn't take you any place that I could see, and so I just spent some time looking at it and kind of figured out my own measurements here, and I came up with this little box, which I think is big enough to hold some sweets or a little gift, some jewelry, any number of things that you could put. Even some 3x3 cards could go in here. I think it has a lot of uses. So I'm going to show you how I made this box today, and we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring up my scoreboard here. Let me try to get that so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm using the thick end of my stylus here, and I'm not pressing very firmly. This designer series paper is pretty hefty, but it isn't cardstock, and so you have to be a little bit careful that you don't score too heavily or you might tear your paper. So with a light hand, I'm going to score this piece at 1 3/4 of an inch here along the long way, and then I'm going to score it at 5.75 or 5 3/4 of an inch, and then again at 7.5 inches, and the last score is going to be at 11.5 inches. Now this piece is 12 inches long and 6 inches wide. So you can get 2 boxes out of a piece of designer series paper. All right, now we're going to turn this on the long side, and I'm going to score this at 1.5 all the way down. Now, while we have this out, I'm going to take this piece of Night of Navy, and then on the short side, I'm going to score that at 1 and, let's see, what did I decide? 1 1/4. So I'm going to score that at 1 1/4, and that's all the scoring there is to that piece. Now, let me move this out of the way, and what we're going to do is fold and burnish our lines. And with this, I'm not going to use a bone folder because, again, it's more delicate, and I think a finger press is fine. So I'm going to score along or fold and burnish with my fingers the score lines that we've put into this project. So there we have our score lines, and you can see just how this little box is going to come together. All right. On the piece of cardstock, of course, we can use our bone folder. It's a little bit sturdier, and we'll burnish our one line there. All right. So what I'm going to do is take my paper snips here, and I am going to, on this little short flap here, I am going to cut this little rectangle flap away, so that whole flap can just go away. And then I'm going to take a very slight edge out of either side, and I'm going to put some fuse along this flap. Okay. then if we've done this right, you can just fold this over and secure that flap down, and there you've got the basis of our little box. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, using our scissors, you could obviously cut this beforehand, but I'm going to cut right up the score lines on these 3 corners here. And the way this box comes together, there's no need to take any other notches out of this. So just up to the score line that goes across. And what we're going to do is fold the 2 flaps in. And because my flap is here, I want this to be the back of the box. So I'm going to fold this one in, and this is the way I'm going to close it. So on this flap here, then, I'm going to put a couple of strips of fuse to get a nice tight closure on the bottom of that box. And I'm just going to fold that up and secure that there. And there we go. We have a nice start to our box. This is such a simple, easy project. Then I'm going to take this piece that we cut here, and we're going to do a little bit of cutting on this piece. So let's see. I've got my ruler here, and what I want to do is I want to measure down 1 inch from the score line, and I'm going to put a little pencil mark there. And then I'm going to mark 1.5 inches from the bottom and put a little score mark, a little pencil mark there as well. Now I'm going to draw a line from those 2 marks here, and I'm going to cut that corner away. So I'm going to cut just inside my pencil mark there and cut that piece away. Now I'm going to save that, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So down 1 inch from the score line, pencil mark, and 1.5 inches from the corner at the bottom, and then I'm going to connect those 2 with a little pencil line. And then I'm going to cut that corner away, saving my little piece that I'm cutting away. And if you've got any pencil marks left on it, now would be a good time to erase those and get rid of them. Okay, there we go. So now we have a piece that looks like that. And again, we're going to save these pieces for later. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put a couple of lines of fuse on this short side of the flap, and I am going to carefully set this box just short of the fold line there. And there we have our flap. Now, on this part of the box, all I'm going to do is push these 2 ends in and marry that up so that it matches the back, and give them a little squeeze so that we get these kinds of closures on the side of our box. All right, and so now all we have to do is add a closure and put some decorations on our box. And you can push that down a ways so that you get a nice closure on your box. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take my little 1/2 inch circle punch, and I'm going to cut 2 little circles. Best to do this from the back so you can see where you are. 2 little circles out of this Night of Navy cardstock here. And there we have our 2 circles. It's going to help us with the closure of our box. And what we're going to do is, the other thing that we're going to need for this are these rare earth magnets, because I'm going to make this a magnet close on this. And we need 2 magnets, and if you've ever worked with these before, you know just how strong those magnets are. So I'm going to get 2 of them off, and I'll show you how to put them on your project. I'm going to use glue dots, and I'm going to put my magnet on a glue dot here, pick up my glue dot, and I'm going to put it right in the center where I want this closure to be. All right, then I'm going to put another glue dot on the back of that magnet, right there, and I'm going to put one of these little circles on top. Then I'm going to place my other magnet on here and put another glue dot on it. Then I'm going to close my box and open it back up again, and now your second magnet is right where it needs to be to match the top one. So the last thing we're going to do is put one more glue dot on this magnet and attach this paper to the top. Now, you can do that in either the designer series paper or the cardstock or whatever you'd like, but your box now closes perfectly. So the last thing we have to do is add some decoration to the top of our box. And what I'm using today is from the Rose Wonder stamp set. I am using this little, it's like a little marquee label, and it is pretty good sized. I'll show it to you there. And it holds all kinds of different messages on the inside. And so I thought that would be kind of nice in white there, stamped in Night of Navy. The second one I'm going to use is from the Love and Affection stamp set, which is just a very pretty, and it matches the flowers and things match the floral patterns on the paper, which is just great. And what I'm using is Sending a Smile Your Way, because that seems to me to be pretty generic. And you will see that it fits right inside the little label that we're going to make here. So what I'm going to do is use my scrap of white, put some scratch paper down just so that I don't miss it, and I am using my Night of Navy ink here, and I'm going to ink up this label here, and it's a nice impression of that. And then I'm going to take the other stamp here, Sending a Smile Your Way, and I am going to, the beauty of photopolymer, you get to center that there, give it a good press, don't rock it, and give it a second to soak into the paper, and there you have a nice little label. And that is all the stamping we're going to do with this project. Now I'm going to take my scissors. There's actually a die that cuts this out, but for this little piece I thought it would be fine to just fussy cut the label out. And I'm just leaving a little bit of a white border around because I think on the Night of Navy that'll look pretty nice. Okay, so, and the trick with fussy cutting, if you haven't done much, is to hold your hold your scissors straight and move your paper. It makes cutting actually quite a bit simpler and easier to accomplish. And especially going around corners and points, if you hold your scissors straight and move your paper, you can control the cut a little bit easier. And there we have it. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of this, and I'm going to put 3 on, so right down the middle. Okay, and take those off. And I'm going to center that, well, right side up would be good. Okay, I'm going to center that right and place it down gently until I can see that I have it fairly centered. All right, there we go. Sending a smile your way. And the other thing that I'm going to add to this, just because it felt like it needed one more little touch, is this is the white baker's twine. And I'm just going to take off a little bit of it here. What is that? That's about 13 or 14 inches of that, just to give me enough to make sure I can tie a bow. And I'm going to use my fingernail here on some of these bends to see if I can't straighten that out a little bit. Okay, now for bows, I'm sure you probably know how to make a bow, but if you have struggled with them, if you get a little loop like I have here and go from the front to the back and then through the loop that you've made and pull on it, what you'll end up with is a perfect bow. And when you tie it that way, your strings are always on the same side. I don't know how many times I've tied a bow and had one going up and one going down. And if you use that methodology, you always get a perfect bow and you always get the strings going the same side. I'm going to do that one more time so you can see. So make a loop around front to back, under and through the loop that you just made, and then pull both ends. Then you can adjust your bow to be whatever size you want. And on this one, I want a pretty small bow, so I'm going to adjust that down a little bit. And there you have your bow with your tails on the same side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, oops, I pulled that a little too tight. All right, now I'm going to nip off the ends of that, and then I'm going to use another glue dot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the glue dot and use my piercing tool here, and I'm going to fold it over on itself on here, and then fold it over from the other side until I get kind of a little roll of a glue dot. And I'm going to put that glue dot on the back of my bow because we don't want anything very big. And then I'm going to use that to put it right down here on the bottom of my flap. And there we have it. We have our nice little gift bag, and you can see on the inside there's actually quite a bit of room to put several things in there. And even a scarf would fit in there, I think. And again, we've got our magnet clothes. And I think that's just a great little project. And I think with this paper, it's just gorgeous. So that is our project for the day. Thank you very much for coming by and watching my video. And again, I'm Linda Bedinger. All of the products that you see here today can be purchased on my 24/7 shop, lbedinger.stampinup.net. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, and or join my team. And so these are the two projects that I've done today. This is a great way also to use up some of that designer series paper that you've got left. Just pick a coordinating cardstock to make your lid. And so there it is, and I'll be back soon with a card or a 3D project, and see you then. Bye.